These underhanded opportunists could sell sawdust to a lumber mill.
I'm a born salesman. I have an ability naturally, from the first time I ever opened up my mouth to try to sell, the words came out perfectly.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 scam artists in history. For this list, we're listing the shrewdest, most notorious double dealers to ever pull a fast one. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to check out the full song at the link below.
You know it, the man of the moment. You feeling the pressure, I'm feeling at home. And I figure I'm winning, I'm taking the throne, and I'm saying no. Hey, you know.
Number 10, Wolfgang Beltraki. Dubbed the forger of the century, German painter Wolfgang Beltraki fooled the art world for years.
He used a technique which was quite unusual and very clever. He recreated paintings which had been lost, but which were known to have existed at some stage. They were usually illustrated in the catalogues raisonnés with blank squares.
Over 4 decades, Beltraki produced hundreds of counterfeit paintings, selling them to collectors for millions with the help of his wife Helene.
You were really the Bonnie and Clyde of the art world, weren't you?
Yes, Bonnie and Clyde.
Well, you were really Bonnie and Clyde of the art
without
world.
weapons, only with pencil.
At one point, one of his forgeries even hung in New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art. After specialists cottoned on, Beltraki and his wife did jail time, but ironically, the scandal catapulted Beltraki to fame, and he now makes a fortune painting original works. Number 9, Big Bertha Heyman. Infamous in her day, Bertha Hayman, also known as the Confidence Queen, flim-flammed victims out of thousands. Born in Prussia, Big Bertha posed as a woman of wealth in the US, convincing men to lend her money with the promise of bigger rewards. In one brazen scheme, she obtained an advance from brokers on securities that were actually worthless papers in a sealed package. When interrogated by police, the glib Bertha boasted she ran her scams for, quote, intellectual pride rather than profit. The smarter the mark, the bigger the thrill. Number 8, Han van Meegeren. This Dutch painter went from artistic frustration to criminal trial to national hero.
And it's the culmination of what I think has to be described as the single most audacious art forgery plot in the entire history.
Failing to find success as an original painter, Dutch painter Han van Meegeren resolved to prove hostile critics wrong by forging paintings by famous artists. His ploy worked. Critics loved his mock masterpieces, which sold for today's equivalent of $30 million.
He also developed a finish made from an early plastic called bakelite. This finish made his paintings impervious to what art experts of the time relied on for spotting forgeries.
The truth came out when van Meegeren was arrested for selling a Vermeer to Nazi Hermann Göring. Revealing the painting was a fake, he was let off with a slap on the wrist and celebrated for duping the Nazis.
Het was ontzettende hype van de media. Van de hele wereld kwamen ze naar Amsterdam toe om hem te interviewen, om tijdens het proces erbij te willen zijn. Want het was de grootste vervalsing die ooit heeft plaatsgevonden.
Number 7, Victor Lustig. This historic conman is remembered as the man who sold the Eiffel Tower. Enterprising crook Victor Lustig started his criminal career selling fake money-making machines on cruise ships, but then set his sights on taller targets. Posing as a French government minister, he successfully sold the Eiffel Tower to a naive scrap metal dealer, who probably should have listened to his suspicious wife. Audaciously, Lustig returned to pull the same scheme a second time, but was forced to flee when his mark told the police. Number 6, George Parker. The Eiffel Tower isn't the only iconic structure that's been sold off. Professional trickster George Parker claimed to have sold the Brooklyn Bridge twice a week for years. He would set up a fake office and target credulous immigrants, many of whom then tried to pull up toll booths on the bridge. But Parker didn't stop there. He also sold the Met, Grant's Tomb, and the Statue of Liberty. His scheme lives on in the expression, and if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. Number 5, Charles de Vil Wells. Best known as the man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo, this English gambler and fraudster pioneered the Ponzi scheme before Ponzi. Setting up a private bank in Paris, Wells paid impressive returns to clients from new investments, robbing Peter to pay Paul. He then fled back to Britain with the cash. He achieved fame for breaking the bank at Monte Carlo Casino not once, but several times, a feat he attributed to a secret method that likely involved cheating. Number 4, Gregor McGregor. When it comes to shameless schemes, Gregor McGregor's Poirier scam is hard to beat. After returning from war in the New World, the Scottish general claimed he'd been made ruler of a fictional Central American country, Poitiers, and sold land certificates to hundreds of investors. He even created a detailed guidebook and fake currency.
He designed a flag and military uniforms. He even composed fake Poitiers ballads and had them sung in the streets of London.
Poitiers, 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 Poitiers.
Sadly, this was far from being a victimless crime. He kept up the lie until the bitter end, resulting in hundreds of hopeful settlers traveling to the imaginary territory, where many died from diseases in the jungle. Meanwhile, McGregor got away scot-free. Number 3. Bernard Madoff. From millionaire stockbroker to life in prison. That's the story of Bernie Madoff, mastermind behind one of the largest financial scams of all time.
Prosecutors claim that he lost some investors' money on bad trades. Then he tried to hide it all by replacing some of that with cash from new investors who were coming in. Apparently, the scheme unraveled last week when clients asked for about $7 billion in redemptions, and Madoff couldn't cover the requests.
For decades, Madoff operated a Ponzi scheme of unprecedented proportions, into which unwitting investors poured billions. It was his sons who finally lifted the lid on the scam after Madoff broke down and confessed the truth to his family.
We were talking about whether or not we think was Bernie sane? Was he telling us the truth? Was he making this up? And Mark and I were both clear that he seemed to be clear-headed, and that this was real.
Many investors lost millions. Son Mark Madoff took his own life, and Bernie Madoff was sentenced to 150 years behind bars.
I asked him if he was depressed, and he said, yes, but the fact that I am functioning troubles me a great deal. You can't do what I've done without guilt.
Number 2. Frank Abagnale. At 16, most of us have enough on our plate with high school.
And that's probably true because I did a lot of traveling.
Frank Abagnale was posing as an airline pilot flying around the world. He had started his scams early, printing fake checks as a teenager, and went on to visit 26 countries as an imposter on Pan Am planes. He later posed as a pediatrician at a hospital for almost a full year.
Dr. Connors, you gonna take roll every night?
Yes, I will, Dr. Ashland. And if you're gonna be late, I suggest you bring a note.
Charming and persuasive, Abagnale could talk his way out of any situation. And after capture, several escapes, and a reduced prison sentence, he now works as a security consultant.
If you make it easy for someone to steal from you, it's unfortunate, but chances are someone will. So you don't want to make it easy for people. You got to be a little skeptical and say, no, I'm going to verify this.
Before we reveal the identity of our top pick, here are some dishonorable mentions. Rudy Kurniawan, also known as Dr. Conti. This fraudster made millions fooling connoisseurs with cheap wine disguised as the world's finest.
And as U.S. investigators will later prove, Rudy Kurniawan is the most notorious wine fraudster of all time, selling tens of millions of dollars in fake wine to collectors.
Joseph Yellow Kid Weil, an infamous conman who sold talking dogs, land he didn't own, and even managed to swindle Benito Mussolini. Aurora Florentina Magnusson, also known as Helga de la Bracha. Born a pauper, she convinced the Swedish royal family she was really a princess. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Charles Ponzi. He arrived in Boston with a few dollars to his name. But Charles Ponzi, who had set out from Italy to make it rich, would go on to become a multi-millionaire for a time. Ponzi's initial plan was to trade in international postal coupons from Europe, which could be redeemed in the US at a higher value.
Here's what I do. I buy you foreign stamps and convert them into American dollars.
Ponzi. Isn't it true? There is no real investment? Aren't you just using money from your new investors to pay your old investors?
You are correct.
He attracted enough investors to rake in millions, until it was revealed he was just paying them returns from new investors. Prison didn't teach him much. He later sold swampland in Florida and called his scheme a great show easily worth the price.
Do you agree with our picks? Let us know in the comments. And hey, if you're a fan of the song playing right now, be sure to check out the music video for it right here.
Big C, TMF. Let's get it though. Hey, the kid is unstoppable. I stay on top of you. I make impossible do like it's fossil fuel. You see the